There is a script. Most customers never hear it as a script. That is the point. You have been to a garage, you have sat in a waiting room, or you have answered a call from a number you did not immediately recognize. You have been told your car needs something. The words used, the specific phrases, the sequencing of concern and reassurance, the way the safety of your family is mentioned before the price, none of it is accidental. Some of it is written down. Some of it is taught in formal training programs. And all of it is designed to do one thing: turn a car that does not need additional work into a job that generates additional revenue. You came in expecting a £195 service. Your phone rings 20 minutes later, brake fluid, rear tyres are borderline, front discs getting low, a shock absorber they noticed while they had it up. Suddenly the quote is £680. And somehow declining feels like gambling with your family's safety. That is not an accident. That is the script working. Point number 1. We noticed a few things while we had it in. Your phone rings. You are sitting in the waiting area with a coffee, or you are back at work, or you are halfway through the school run. The service was booked. You were expecting a call to say it is ready. Instead, the advisor says, "We noticed a few things while we had it in." Notice what just happened. You did not ask for an inspection. You booked a service. But now there is a list, and the moment you hear "we noticed," something shifts. Mark said this phrase, or a close variation of it, was the standard opening for the additional revenue conversation in every garage he worked in. Not "we found a safety problem," not "we need to discuss something urgent." Just "we noticed a few things." It is deliberately light. It creates curiosity without alarm, and it is designed to be delivered before you have had time to think about whether you want to receive it. The mechanism is the obligation it creates. A garage that noticed something has, in the framing of that sentence, done you a favor. You are now in a position where declining to hear about it makes you the unreasonable party. The customer who says "I only came in for a service and I'm not interested in anything else" has to push against the implied goodwill of someone who looked out for them. Mark was trained to follow the phrase with a pause. Let the customer fill the silence. Almost always the customer says, "Go on then." And this is where most customers lose the argument without realizing it. Because the "go on then" is the consent. The work that gets proposed after a "go on then" has already been half accepted before a single item has been named. At a regional training day Mark attended, this specific phrase was discussed as a technique for structuring additional revenue conversations. The guidance was clear: use it early, keep the tone light, and never lead with an item or a price until after the customer has confirmed they want to hear more. The confirmation, the "go on then," makes everything that follows feel like a response to their interest rather than a sales pitch. The noticing is not incidental. In most commercial workshops, Mark said, those items come from a structured health check running in parallel with the service you booked. The language just makes it sound spontaneous. It was not. Point number 2. It's really borderline now. It's up to you, but we wouldn't want you to leave it. This is 2 phrases working as one, and each half does a separate job. The first half, "it is really borderline," creates urgency without specifics. Borderline against what? Against the legal minimum? Against a manufacturer threshold? Against a number the garage set internally? The word borderline is almost never defined. It sits in the conversation as a general warning, and your imagination fills it with whatever concerns you most. The second half, "it is up to you, but we would not want you to leave it," is what Mark described as the most effective 2-part construction in service advisor language. The first clause gives you permission to say no. It lowers your guard. It makes the whole thing feel reasonable and pressure-free. Most customers do not take the exit, not because they are easily misled, because the social contract of the exchange makes taking it feel like ignoring a sincere professional warning. Here is the number that sits behind this phrase. A tire at 3mm is not borderline legal. The legal minimum is 1.6. 3mm is nearly double the minimum. But 3mm on a digital gauge in a color-coded health check, delivered with this phrase, becomes a tire that gets replaced that afternoon. That is the phrase working as designed. Point number 3, the manufacturer recommends this every 2 years and yours is overdue. This is the phrase that sounds the most authoritative. It is also the phrase most frequently detached from anything the manufacturer actually recommends. The manufacturer recommendation is real as a concept. Service schedules exist. Some items have time-based intervals, every 2 years regardless of mileage. Brake fluid is the most commonly cited. Coolant is another. These are genuine maintenance items with genuine engineering rationale behind them, what Mark described as the gap between the genuine recommendation and how the phrase gets used. In a commercial workshop, the manufacturer recommendation is invoked when it supports the sale, and quietly ignored when it does not. The customer 2 months past a brake fluid interval gets told the fluid is overdue, and the manufacturer recommends it. The customer whose brake fluid was done 8 months ago at a different garage does not get told they have another 16 months before it is due. The information flows one way, always toward the sale. Mark described coolant being recommended on cars where the coolant had been tested and was within acceptable parameters on the basis that it was approaching the interval. Approaching, 18 months into a 2-year interval. The word approaching was doing a great deal of work for a relatively small amount of truth. The lie is not in the recommendation itself, which is often real. It is in the selective use of authority. The manufacturer's schedule is cited when it builds a case. It disappears when it would undermine one. On a typical main dealer service visit, Mark said, the items justified by manufacturer recommendation but not yet at the actual interval could add between £100 and £500 to the invoice. Most customers do not look up the schedule themselves. The advisor knows this. That gap is the business model. The protection is 10 minutes on your phone before you hand the car over. Look up the manufacturer's service schedule for your specific vehicle. Know which items are due and at what interval. The advisor who knows you have done this is an advisor who cannot use this phrase the way it was designed to be used. Point number 4. We always recommend using original parts on a car like this. You asked whether there was a cheaper option. This phrase is the answer to that question. It works on 2 levels simultaneously, and both of them are doing commercial work behind the language of expertise. First, technical authority. The garage knows more about cars than you. They are recommending original parts. Declining that recommendation means choosing a lesser outcome for your vehicle against the advice of a professional. Second, on a car like this. Not all cars, your car. A car that is, by implication, worth doing properly. This flatters your attachment to the vehicle. It implies that choosing an aftermarket part would be beneath what the car deserves. Mark described the economics. At the main dealer where he worked, OEM parts carried a markup of between 40 and over 100% above trade price. Quality aftermarket components, Bosch, Febi, Delphi, are in many cases built to the same specification, sometimes in the same factory as the original parts. The difference on the invoice was between £60 and £150 per component. The difference in performance for most wear items was minimal to none. The recommendation is not made on technical grounds. It is made on margin grounds. But the customer who pushes back and hears we always recommend original parts on a car like this almost never asks again. The language of expertise has made the question feel irresponsible, and most customers, Mark said, never find out they paid £60 more for a part that was functionally identical to the one they declined. Point number 5, if we leave it much longer, it could affect other components. This is the escalation phrase. It arrives after you have already hesitated on price. You came in expecting a service. Your phone rang. You have already heard about the brake fluid, the borderline tyre, the manufacturer recommendations, and now there is a shock absorber, £250. You are in the car park, or the waiting room, or back at your desk. You say you are not sure. And then this lands. Notice the structure. It does not say this will cause another problem. It says could. The probability is unspecified. The mechanism is unspecified. The other components are unspecified. The time frame, much longer, is undefined. The entire sentence lives in deliberate vagueness because specificity requires evidence and evidence can be challenged. Vagueness cannot. What the advisor has just done is expand the decision. You are no longer choosing between £250 and not spending it. You are now choosing between £250 and an undefined future cost that might be larger. What are those other components? How much do they cost? What if they go while you're on the motorway with your family? None of those questions were answered. They did not need to be. The fear does the work. Mark described this in training terms as consequence expansion. Widen the frame of risk until the current cost feels smaller than the implied future cost of declining. £250 today versus something potentially much more expensive later. Most customers, when that frame is set, choose today. Mark said the could in this phrase was rarely based on a specific mechanical analysis of the car being discussed. It was based on the general truth that components interact. which is always technically true, and almost never a genuine assessment of the probability on this specific vehicle on this specific day. The shock absorber might affect the lower wishbone bush if left. It might. The way not replacing your wiper blades could affect your visibility. Technically accurate. Commercially deployed. The could is a tool. The customer cannot distinguish a real could from a commercial one. Not in the moment. Not without a second opinion they probably will not get before the car needs to come off the ramp. But the escalation phrases are not the most powerful thing on this list, because the most powerful tool is not the phrase that raises your alarm, it is the phrase that lowers it. We are nearly there. Now we reach point number 6, and this is where the script gets harder to hear. I'd be worried about driving it in this condition, to be honest with you. Mark said this was the phrase he found hardest to train himself out of using, because it is not a lie in the way the others are lies. The advisor delivering it often does have a genuine professional concern. The problem is what the word I is doing, and the commercial work it is being asked to carry while appearing to carry nothing but care. The phrase shifts the conversation from a transaction to a relationship. You are no longer being sold a service item. You are being told, personally by a professional who spent this morning looking at your car, that they are worried about your safety. The invoice disappears. The revenue target disappears. The conversion bonus disappears. What remains is a person in a uniform telling you they are concerned. Mark described exactly where it was deployed, on the customer who had said they needed to think about it, the customer who said they would sort it next month, the customer who mentioned a second opinion. Those are the phrases that close a revenue conversation. This phrase reopens it, on grounds that are much harder to walk away from without feeling reckless. He told us about a customer who had declined a brake disc and pad job at one of his garages, discs worn but not at the legal minimum. She used the car for short local journeys. She said she would think about it. The service advisor used this phrase. She authorized the work. £382. Mark checked the inspection notes afterwards. The discs were at 4.2 millimeters. Legal minimum is 1.5. She had, by any fair assessment, months of use remaining. Nothing fabricated. The phrase was not a lie about the discs. It was a lie about the concern. The concern was not about her safety. The concern was about the month-end figure. It is not always a deliberate deception. That is exactly why it is so effective. An advisor who genuinely believes the car should have the work done can use this phrase without it feeling like manipulation. And the customer has no way to distinguish genuine professional concern from commercial concern dressed in professional clothes. And remember what we said at the start. The most expensive phrase on this list is not the one that scares you. It is the one that makes you relax. We are not there yet. But keep watching. Point number 7. We only found out when we had it on the ramp. It wasn't visible before. Your car is already in the workshop. The booked work is underway. You are expecting the call that says it is ready. Instead, the advisor rings with something new, something they found once they had it elevated, something that was not visible before. It sounds entirely plausible. Some things genuinely are only visible from below. Of course, a ramp reveals things a walk-around cannot, and in legitimate situations that is completely true. Mark said it is also used when it is not true at all. He described what he called the stage disclosure. A car comes in for a service. A trained technician does a quick walk-around at check-in and spots several items worth discussing with the customer. A worn exhaust hanger, a leaking brake caliper slider, a rear shock absorber with visible corrosion. They say nothing. The car goes on the ramp. The oil is draining. The booked work begins. Halfway through, the advisor rings. We found something when we had it up. It was not visible before, but here is what has changed since check-in. The car is elevated, already partially stripped. The customer is in an incomplete situation. The job they came in for is not finished. Saying no to the additional work now is not just declining a recommendation. It is creating a complication. The car needs to be reassembled, lowered, and handed back in an unfinished state. That is a friction the customer did not have when the advisor could have had this conversation at the check-in desk. And this is where most customers lose the argument without realizing it, because the frame has shifted. The inconvenience of saying no has been deliberately increased. The item that was visible at check-in, that could have been disclosed in a neutral, pressure-free moment when the customer had full freedom to say no and drive away, is now a discovery made at the moment of maximum leverage. Mark said this was not universal. Not every garage, not every advisor, but it was present in every garage he had worked in. Tolerated by management who saw the conversion figures and did not ask too many questions about how they were produced. The phrase implies surprise. It implies transparency. We found something and we are telling you immediately. In the staged version, neither is true. The practical protection is straightforward. When you drop your car in, ask the service advisor to walk around the car with you before it goes anywhere. Note anything of concern in writing, on the job card. This removes the leverage of later discovery. A car that has been documented at check-in cannot become a surprise discovery on the ramp. Point number 8. Honestly, you got away with it last time. This phrase usually comes after a fail, after a real finding, a genuine item that needs addressing, and it is delivered with a kind of warmth that makes the person saying it sound like they are on your side. But listen to what it does. First, it implies the current condition is worse than it sounds. Whatever passed last year is no longer acceptable now. The window has closed. You did not have a safe car before. You got lucky. Second, it creates the feeling of borrowed time. Getting away with it is not the same as being safe. It suggests you have been driving around on something that was quietly deteriorating while appearing fine. And third, there is the word honestly. Between a professional and a customer, honestly means, I am telling you the harder truth because I am trying to help you. It makes the advisor sound less like someone selling work and more like someone protecting you from a mistake. Together, those 3 moves are difficult to resist. The car is deteriorating, you have been fortunate, and the person across the desk is choosing to be straight with you. Mark said he used this phrase many times. On clear-cut cases, yes, but also on marginal ones. He used it when the concern was accurate, and he used it when it was technically supportable but commercially useful, with the same effect. Because honestly sounds the same whether or not it is honest. The protection is one question. What specifically has changed since the last test? If the answer is measurable, the reading was this, now it is this, the threshold is this, the concern is real. If the answer is vague, these things deteriorate, it is hard to say exactly, then the phrase is not an assessment. It is a technique, and the technique is working on you. Now notice the pattern. We notice something, it is borderline. The manufacturer recommends it. Original parts on a car like this. It could affect other components. I would be worried. It was only visible on the ramp. You got away with it last time. Every phrase so far raises pressure. It creates urgency. It makes saying no feel risky. The 9th phrase does the opposite, and that is why Mark said it was the most effective of all. Point number 9. We'll keep an eye on it. You have heard about something minor, a developing condition, not urgent, not failed, not something that needs doing today. And the advisor closes the conversation with, we will keep an eye on it. You drive away reassured. Nothing urgent, nothing decided. They are watching it for you. But according to Mark, this is one of the most efficient pieces of false reassurance in the workshop vocabulary, because while it sounds like nothing, it quietly creates a future sale. The item has now been named. It exists on the health check. It is logged against your car. You leave thinking the matter is closed. The garage leaves with a seed planted. 11 months later, you come back for the next service. The same item appears again. But now it is not a new recommendation. It is the thing they have been monitoring. It has history. It has a trajectory. It feels more serious because it has been mentioned twice. Mark gave us one example. A customer's car had minor corrosion on the rear suspension arm bushes. Not a fail, not urgent. The advisor said they would keep an eye on it. Nearly a year later, the car came back. The item was raised again. This time the customer authorized the work, £420. The item may have needed doing. That was not Mark's point. His point was that the phrase had built continuity. Not fear, not urgency, trust. By the time the customer said yes, they were not reacting to a fresh recommendation. They were confirming something that had apparently been developing for almost a year. And that is why this phrase is so powerful. What is the condition today? What is the fail threshold? Can both numbers be written on the service record? If the garage is genuinely monitoring it, they will have no problem being specific. If the item has been planted for a future conversation, specificity becomes uncomfortable. 9 lies mechanics are trained to tell. Not always lies about safety, lies about language. And often not told by dishonest people, told by ordinary people inside a system that rewards conversion, targets, and the phrases that turn hesitation into authorization. Mark said every phrase works because it contains something true. A borderline tire might become a problem. Brake fluid may genuinely be due. One worn component can affect another. The truth is what makes the lie invisible. The lie is using that truth to sell work that, on this specific day, most of their lives being fine. What you now know is how to hear the words designed to make you believe otherwise. Tell us in the comments, which of these phrases have you heard? And did it work on you? And did it work on you? And did it work on you?